Hi, and welcome to Equine Business Edge, the podcast for horse professionals who want to build a stronger, more profitable business without losing their passion for the horse industry. I'm your host, Jamie Birch, entrepreneur, horseman, and founder of equinerevshare.com. Each episode, we dive into real-world business strategies, marketing, system, mindset, leadership, growth ideas, specifically for trainers, instructors, clinicians, barn owners, and equine entrepreneurs. This podcast is proudly produced and sponsored by equinerevshare.com, a platform that helps horse professionals earn commissions from the products they already know, use, and recommend every day in one simple click. Now, let's jump into today's episode. All right, Abriana Johnson, thank you for joining me on the Equine Business Edge podcast today.
I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so excited. I first saw you on LinkedIn, and I loved how LinkedIn, sometimes social media gets pretty weird and creepy with what they recommend. And other times that creepiness goes away and you get introduced to people you've never talked to, never seen before. And once we started posting this podcast on LinkedIn, I have got introduced to some of the coolest people I've never met before and really that I've ever met, and you being one of them. I saw 2 posts of yours that really intrigued me. That was on agritourism and then one on inclusivity and representation. And that both of those kind of prompted me to dive in, learn about you, and bring you on to talk about all those things and whatever else comes up today.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, let me do my best to introduce you to our listeners. So, Abriana, you're an entrepreneur, a brand strategist, speaker, author, and I really do want to talk to you about some of the speaking stuff you do. Podcaster, lifelong horsewoman. You're dedicated to building more connected, sustainable, welcoming equine industry. You have a background in animal science from North Carolina State and a master's from the University of Florida. You have combined your passion for horses, agriculture, education, and storytelling into multiple successful businesses and community initiatives. I thought I was busy until I read all the things that you're doing. So right now, you have the Black Unicorn Creative, a branding, marketing, and creative consulting agency. You have Black in the Saddle, which is a media platform, podcast, and community celebrating Black equestrians. You have the Kinship Conference, which I'd love to hear more about, an annual conference that brings together horse professionals, entrepreneurs, creatives, and industry leaders to foster collaboration, community, and new opportunities in the equine industry. And you are an author of children's books, Cowgirl Cameron. That's really cool. I want to hear about that too. You are a sought-after speaker and consultant. You are charismatic and have done some amazing things. And that's who we're talking to today. Welcome. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it. I've been really trying hard not to add anything else.
Yeah, that is hard for entrepreneurs, isn't it? That's awesome. Well, tell me, I like to start at the beginning. We spent a little bit of time together, so I know a little bit about you, but tell me, how'd you get here? How'd you get into horses? How did you become an entrepreneur? Like, we've got 84 different businesses we get to talk about.
Yep. We're gonna stick to our hour, maybe.
Yes, I will do my best to stick us to the hour. Yeah.
No promises, but yeah, thank you again for just opening the doors wide open and let me come and share just, oh my goodness, what this life is. I grew up, I'm the child of an entrepreneur. My dad has been working for himself. He's a landscaper, but he's also a Mr. Do-It-All. You know, he drives, he does tractor work, he does a lot. And so I always knew that it was a possibility to work for yourself and create your own work. And so that was never foreign to me. You know, some people, they're like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine entrepreneurship. I'm like, no, I joke in college, you know, my dad will call me because I grew up 30 minutes from where I went to undergrad. And And he would call me like on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock, like, hey, like I'm driving through. You want to get lunch? And I'm like, sure. And then he would take me on errands. And I'm like, hey, like I'm in
I've got stuff
like
to
I got
do.
class. Like it's not kidnapping,
But it's close.
but also take me back.
Yeah.
So this
that.
flexibility and time freedom was innate for me growing up. And so I grew up, he also had a friend who did riding lessons. He went to school with her, so I started taking lessons from her. And I distinctly remember having to ride this crotchety gray pony, and I like had to kick and kick and kick. And as soon as I got to posting, he would stop trotting and I got to kick again. And I remember feeling so dejected. Now, as an adult, I understand rite of passage.
It's a perfect horse, right? To start.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But as 7-year-old me, I was like, I'm in a group lesson with girls who have their own horses, flashy, big bays, warm bloods. And I'm like, this isn't adding up. Something's not adding up here. This is not the way that I thought this was going to be. Not because I don't want to do hard things, but I don't feel like I'm doing hard things together or with someone. So, I mean, from birthday cakes to going on vacations in the mountains, Pigeon Forge and Gatlinburg, going on trail rides out there. And I mean, horses, I was asking for it all the time. And when I got into high school, I had a cousin who started going to trail rides, these trail rides that happen all over North Carolina. And his land did not have anyone. He had land, but there was no house on it. So he asked, because we had a little bit of land, can we throw up a fence and put my horses there? Of course, my little brother and I were ecstatic.
We're like, bring them all.
We will take care of them every single day. Just put them there. And I can lay in my bed and look out at these horses.
Heaven.
And that's where my horses are right now. Awesome. So I started going to these trail rides.
And those are big, like when we say trail rides here in Idaho, it's like 4 people, maybe. This is big deals, right?
This is hundreds.
That's crazy.
Black cowboys, black, brown, everybody, truly everyone. But primarily black cowboys meeting up in the middle of the woods. We're eating food. We had a fish fry, cookout. Some people are drinking, and
it happens.
It happens. But then we go ride in the morning, and it's just this community. We're in the woods, we're singing oldies, we're call and response, things that are very much a part of Black culture. And people did not believe me. They did not believe me that this happened. And so when I went to NC State to study animal science, there was this dissonance. Like, what do you mean you ride horses? Like, what do you mean you have horses? What do you mean you have horses at your house?
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you mean? What do I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was like the place that I was coming from. I'm learning so much academically about how to care for horses and improve their quality of life. But also, I came from this, and there's such a cultural resonance there that I'm like, yeah, you're teaching me some things, but you're not teaching me everything, because I've been doing this. And so everything that I've done since then has really been about putting that together. What does it look like to know that, Black people have been working with horses for decades, for eons?
Some of the first cowboys.
Yeah. And we can still stand to learn and do more and do better and stake a claim in this industry to say, okay, we don't have to just be a horse trainer. You don't have to just ride bucking bulls. Great things. I love it. You can be bulldogging. More power to you. But also, you can be breeders. You can be the next tech innovator in this industry. You can be the accountant, because we need accountants. I just want to open up the possibility, and especially through the podcast, showing people who are doing it right now.
Yeah, and we talked about that representation, and I was saying, look, when we talk about this, both sides are one side's going to be like, I don't want to talk about this at all, and the other side's going to be like, who's this guy, and he handled this incorrectly. So we're just going to enter it and see how it goes. But when
That's
you were
fine.
talking, you told me about the birthday cake. Can you tell me that
Yes.
story?
Yeah. I want to say it's my 9th birthday. These not things that I remember, but looking back on these photos, I clearly had asked for an equestrian cake. Like, I want a horseback rider on my cake. And the cake, it had an English rider on it. Of course, it was a white woman. And I have no recollection of my response or how happy I was. I need to ask my mom about that. But looking at it now, I'm like, wait a minute. Clearly, there was no other option.
Yeah,
This was
yeah.
the horse girl cake in 1999. So
Luckily, there was a horse girl cake, but
luckily there was one, and that was the only option. And so I just knowing who my family is, I know they were like, "What the heck is that?" But if it makes her happy, whatever. She wanted a back rider on her cake, and it goes to show that it's not even that long ago that we did not have a lot of imagery representing diverse people in the horse industry. And now, we're having more of that. And it's just up to us to push the mediums in which that representation shows up. So with Cowgirl Cameron, I'm really interested in expanding that brand through licensing. And my first licensed product was edible cake sheets.
really,
Yes.
that's
So,
outstanding. I wonder where that came from.
well, honestly, they reached out to me and I was like, "Oh my gosh,
Really?
full circle moment."
With
Yes,
not
I went
having the story. Did they know that story?
no idea.
Wow.
I went to the
Wow.
licensing expo in Vegas and I came across the owner of that business. And so, yeah, you can order Cowgirl Cameron edible cake sheets, rounds, rectangles, and squares. And it's got the bit for the sides as well, And I'm just like, this is such a
Congrats.
full circle moment. Thank you.
That is so huge. You know, when you're telling me that story, I thought there's not a lot in my life that I could really relate to in that. Because it's hard to step into someone else's life experience, especially when culturally it's so different. And I live in North Idaho, so it's very homogenous. But I did remember a few years back when I started showing horses, I was watching this guy and he was in cutting and he was probably 65 and he was being interviewed because he just won a big show that day, and they asked him about his history in it. He's like, I just started. I was working my whole life, and I started when I was like 60, and I had time and I had money, and I just wanted to make this happen. And I remember thinking at the time I was probably 40. I was probably maybe 50. I'm 51 now. I was thinking if he can do it, like I can do it too. And that really drove home like this message of how important the representation is. And I feel like maybe it's not the same thing, but I could empathize and kind of put myself in these other shoes and go, oh, no, this is why, because I saw that and went, oh, okay, I'm not too old.
Mm-hmm.
I can go do this. I have time now too, and I can go do that. Is that kind of what we're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. The ability to see what's possible. That is what representation is meant to fulfill, to show you what is possible, to give you the keys to unlock your imagination to, okay, yeah, I see that person doing this. I can do that and more. I can get more creative with what my options are. Like I tell people on Black in the Saddle podcast, I've interviewed everyone from a 15-year-old barrel racer to a 65-year-old mounted archer who travels internationally to do mounted archery.
That's
He's
crazy.
probably 69 now.
Wow.
So the range is huge, and showing that possibility allows people to push themselves farther than what they think was possible.
That's awesome. I think I was telling you a story of how on Sundays my dad used to take us to the golf course communities, really fancy $1 million homes. And this is, 45 years ago. So $1 million home was enormous.
Yeah.
Um, and that showed us that, and he always said, someday I'm going to live in one of these. And it took him till he was about 60, but he did live in a house on the golf course. But that did open to us of like, this is a possibility. It never was not a possibility that this could be what we would achieve. And that's super powerful.
Absolutely. The same cousin that brought the horses to my childhood home and where took me on my first trail rides and things like that. He's a business owner himself, and he owned a auto body shop, and he had the schematics drawn up for a house. And that house sat in front or on his wall for 20 years. He finished building it last year.
That's
And
crazy. That's so
I rem
cool.
it's when I say it's an estate, I'm like, "Oh, so you had to get an elevator? That's crazy."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but his horses are there, and, I asked him, I was like, "Does it surprise you? Did it surprise you when everything was finished?" He was like, "Why would I be surprised when I've been staring at it for 20 years? Looks exactly like I planned for
Wow.
it to look." And that just was like, "Oh,
I'm not surprised. This was where I was headed.
yes, this has been the goal all along. Why would I be surprised when I got there?"
Wow.
Ugh. So
Wow.
I completely agree. That is why it's so important to show what you're doing. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have done it exactly the way you want, but just simply being visible makes someone else know, like, "Oh, I can do that too."
Yeah, I posted about I had a horse show this weekend, and my content was I didn't start till I was 47. I had so many people who were like, I was thinking about it. I'm 50, I'm 65. I just don't know. I saw this video and now I want to do this.
Mhm.
And that it's a huge thing. It's a huge thing. So did you were you're doing these big trail rides, and talk to me a little more about, you got to NC State and there was like this disconnect of like people they didn't even know this culture
Mhm.
existed, like horse culture, but also black horse culture.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't know why I've always been aware of it. I mean, black cowboys were some of the first cowboys. You could go get free land in the West and be free, and that's where they went. So how did that, like, is that what drove, like, other people need to see this? Other people like me need to see that this exists. Is that
Mhm.
kind of how that, and now I'm going to go do that here?
Yeah. Um, I think it started that way. It started that way, in saying, or wanting to prove a point, right?
Okay.
To say, "Oh, wait a minute, no, I've been doing this." Every time you attempt to correct me, know that I'm coming from a place of experience, not this is not this is not my first rodeo.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
So
Um,
was that like they were kind of showing you that like that culture didn't exist, or was it more in the education process? Help
it,
me
it
on.
was it was more of the education, like, "Oh, well, did you know?" It's like, yes, I did know. I've been around breeding horses for
Okay.
years. Like,
Yeah.
well, actually, let me tell you about, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, I have experience with that because I've done this, this, and that." And it's like, "You have?" Yes.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
have. Like, "Oh, let me tell you the difference between trotting horses and gaited horses."
And they
Interesting.
just assumed that you didn't know that
Yeah, it's the
because of how you looked.
assumptions. Right, right.
Gotcha.
And
Okay.
and and I'm not even, it's not a good use of my energy to wonder why they're they were clueless, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I say that it started off, my platform started off with like, hey, wait a minute. We've been out here. Let me show you a whole
Yeah,
bunch of people who've been out here
yeah.
doing
We're
this.
here.
We're here. But it changed. It changed. It used to be called Young Black Equestrians. Um, but then I had a kind of come to Jesus moment where it was like, wait a minute. I can do more, or my energy is best spent empowering and uplifting the Black community than it is proving our existence. Who
Mm.
am I
That's quite a
proving
shift.
myself to? Yes.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I was
yeah.
in the shower and I got a download and it was Black in the Saddle. And I looked up and no one had the social media handles,
Oh
and
yeah.
now
You
the
know it's a good
domain.
idea then.
Right. I was like,
The
wait
domain's
a minute.
available.
The domain was like $2,500, and I was
Oh
like,
no.
that's a squatter. So I just
Yep,
did
yep.
BLK in the saddle, and I'm like, okay, now we're good. But that was how I was like, okay, it's time to shift. We're changing the intent and the energy behind this podcast. So how can we be more of a resource to the community that we care so much about?
And that's
So
kind of, it
yeah.
feels like you're shifting from the people who don't know and explaining to them that you're there to, I'm just
Mhm.
going to serve the community that is there. And we're going
Yes.
to highlight really great people in this community to
Yeah.
inspire this community. Instead of, I'm not going to try and tell you guys what we're doing. You should already know. You don't, whatever. Moving on.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's quite
Right.
a bit different energy.
It is. It absolutely is. It changes the audience. It changes the um type of content that goes up. It changes the conversation completely. And after 7 years, that's how we got to the kinship conference that's coming up in November.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I know that there are a lot of horse events, expos, all kinds of events, and I've been to a lot of them. And I seldom see people who look like me on stage. And it's not because they don't have the expertise. It's not because they hadn't put in the 10,000 hours it takes to be an expert in something. There are many trainers that are popular now that, dropped out of school, and they have this amazing story of how they
Yeah.
worked for this trainer and they came up in the trenches, and that is the same story of most of the people that I know doing this work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I said, wait a minute. I'm all about building my own stage. I don't You ask me what I bring to the table, I don't bring nothing, okay? Because I'm sitting at my own.
I
I'm
love
sitting
that.
at I'm
Yeah.
sitting at my own table,
I don't
okay?
need your table.
I will say hello to you from across the room, but that's what it is. It's building our own table, building our own stage to say, these are the experts that I know. I've interviewed over 90 people at this point. There are 28 speakers coming from around the country and even the UK to speak in November and simply sharing their expertise. The theme this year is everyone has a story. And so they're sharing what they know about horses and whatever their expertise in the industry is through their own stories. And I'm so excited to just hear how that lands for people and how what they believe is possible in the horse industry changes because they have learned from and heard stories about people who look like them doing the work, doing the hard thing, having to go and invest time and education in places where there's no one that looks like them, to then come back and share it with them, to have to deal with some of the consequences of the crackdown on immigration, to then develop new technology to feed and water their horse. I have an engineer coming to talk about that.
Wow.
How else will we know that information? We have to
Yeah.
create the stage for that to happen. And so that's what the kinship conference is.
And is that a Black only or Black focused conference?
All the speakers are Black. Yes.
Gotcha.
Anybody can come, but the
Yeah.
experience, the speakers, everything is designed to center Black voices. And that is the expectation. I cannot say only a certain type of person can come.
Yeah.
I just can't say that. That's not reality. And I appreciate the support of anyone. That is, if you want to come learn from these professionals, come learn. We appreciate that. But centering Black voices will always be the focus of the Kinship Conference.
Do you think eventually it needs to be like not too, I don't know what the equivalent conference is, but I will say I've not seen a lot of Black voices at the things that I go to. Do you think eventually that comes together, or do you think they like, to me, the separate, I understand completely. Mm-hmm. I understand as best I can why you would need to, definitely do that. Do you think over time those Black voices need to be integrated into all these other things?
I think,
or I know there's a bit of an energy of like, I don't care. I've made this stage. We're making this stage. I don't care.
Yeah. I don't know that it need to be is the word, but the opportunity is there. The door is open for that, because a lot of times when people of color enter primarily white spaces, there is this concern of like, do I feel safe here? Are they going to care for my story and my presentation? If something goes wrong with AV, am I going to be able to find somebody? Are they going to even, help me? Like, there are very real fears that happen when we enter spaces not meant for us, not designed for us. So I'm not going to say it needs to be, but what I will say is that there should be pipelines of support to say, okay, wait a minute. I might be able to bring some of these speakers onto my event, or I can find ways to support what they already have going on, and show my support ahead of time before I start asking for something from that community.
Okay.
So
that's a big distinction.
It is. And these are the conversations that I like to have, because if we take our emotions off the table about it, because a lot of things have been sensationalized,
Well, yeah, and people don't talk, and we don't have this conversation.
Right.
You just hear inclusivity, and one side is, yeah, they don't, and we lose this opportunity to learn from each other.
Right. And not saying that it's, not rightfully so, but I've just been doing this so long that I'm like, let's talk about it. What's going to happen? Yeah. We get upset? Yeah. Great. How do we navigate our feelings about it? Like, let's talk about it. Here we go. It's fine.
Yeah. And the change doesn't happen when people just yell at each other. And they're really not yelling to each other or at, it's like across the street. No one actually gets to talk about it. So was Black in the Saddle like the first organization you created? You went and got your master's, and then kind of tell me about what happened after that.
I would say like 2018, 2019 was a blur. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I did a lot of things that year. So I started Black Unicorn Creative by doing custom vinyl work. That was like out when the cricket and the silhouette were the jam,
Yeah.
And everybody's cutting vinyl. And
we have one in the closet.
Exactly. And so I was doing that, and then people asked me like, oh, well, I want my logo on this thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. And some people didn't have logos, so I started designing logos. And then they're like, okay, well, do you do websites too? And I'm like, well, I did mine. So, okay, sure. I will I could do yours too. Okay, now we need more things for the website than just the logo. So now we're doing entire brand identities. And then I said, well, wait a minute. I followed up 6 months later and you're not in business. You're not like getting
Mm,
client. What's going on? And I realized there was like this operational disconnect. And so then I got into consulting, right? When I started Black Unicorn Creative, I did that in 2018. I published my first Cowgirl Cameron book in 2019.
wow.
Started Black in the I published that in August of 2019. Started Black in the Saddle February of 2019. So the 3 legs of my stool of a business came really fast.
Yeah.
And
And
it
this is all after you got your master's, and
yeah,
your education is not in marketing or organizational leadership. It's in
no.
animal health and health,
Right.
correct? So
Right.
that's quite an impressive jump.
Yes, kind of. My master's is in One Health, which is the interconnectedness of human, animal, and environmental health and wellness.
Wow. That was a question. I had no idea what that was. So, okay, tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah. So my position always was, if the World Health Organization defines health as not only the absence of disease, that's not the only thing that health means. How can we get in front of it? How can we understand how all of these things are connected and get in front of that? What do we need before disease even shows up? And so I take that way of thinking, that systems thinking, that's what it's called, and look at that within businesses, within communities. It is understanding the interconnectedness of whatever the subject matter is. And so when I started consulting, it's like, okay, especially in the horse industry, where are we looking at the people, the animals, and the environment? That could be the market, the business landscape. Your I work with a lot of equine assisted services businesses. So I'm like, your business plan kind of relies on the equine inventory that you have. You cannot commit to doing 50 sessions a week if you don't have horses that can
Do 50
sustain those
sessions.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's this way of thinking, this holistic way of thinking, to where I can zoom out and then zoom in and zoom out and zoom in. That's how I take the education that I have into the work that I'm doing now. And that influences the industries that I work with also. I have a very core value of alignment. If it doesn't align, I must decline. And so I don't
Hmm.
work with weapons manufacturers.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's not my jam. Somebody else can do that. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
how
We
I
always
think.
took the tact of anyone on the far side of anything.
Mhm.
We're not gonna work with. It's just not what we did. So
Yeah.
I totally understand that. So you kind of it resonates with me because I went to school for finance and economics.
Mhm.
I got out and I never did finance or economics. I mean, I use it, but
Yeah.
from my first job until what I'm doing today is about marketing and
Mhm.
leadership and business. But it's not. My dad always said, "Go get accounting. Get your accounting degree. Marketing you can learn on the job." And I do agree with that. It's although I couldn't do the accounting degree, I I had 2 classes and that was enough. But anyway, I had enough of that.
Yeah.
So the one thing that, or one of the things that really intrigued me was this. Well, before we get there, you just I saw a post about your public speaking,
Mhm.
and I love that I saw that you had a group of people that got to hear like this new story or a new pitch, and it reminded me of my first big keynote speech.
Mhm.
I and I one of the reasons I took up podcasting is public speaking frightens the living snot out of me. And
Really?
Yeah, and I remember, so I saw your image of, a Zoom call with your people listening to you and how excited you were. And I remember I had one of those, but my face was so dramatically different because I didn't want to do it. And it was the first one in front of, and it never mattered to me if it was 4 people or 1,000 people or 4,000 people. It still made me nervous. And I just remember sometimes before those of how nervous I would get. And you remember the movie Jim Carrey, Liar, Liar? This may,
Yes.
okay. Do
Yes.
you remember when
Yes.
he was in the bathroom kicking the crap out of himself?
Yeah.
Okay. I remember looking at a bathroom as I'm walking out to do a speaking engagement and thinking, how hard can I hit myself on that sink so I don't hurt, but I don't have to deliver this speech? So
Mhm.
I saw yours and how excited you were. And, you seem to have so much confidence. When you do a lot of public speaking, is that come naturally to you, or do you have to overcome the nerves too?
I do have to overcome nerves, but they're not from actually speaking. And that's why this talk that I'm doing on Friday is so important to me, because my nerves come from sharing an idea that grew inside here, right? That was pieced together from my own observations and my own work. I have been on stages and speaking in front of people since middle school. I did a
Wow.
program in high school where I did research at UNC Chapel Hill, and I had to compete in science competitions all over the state. And
Wow.
like I kept winning, and I and like I didn't go to nationals, but I did compete at the state level, and I just remember, we were in RTP, and those people were strict. We couldn't say we couldn't, you know, have long pauses. Like I went through a training in high school, but
Wow.
also my parents, they were they have always empowered me to pursue whatever idea that I have. As long as I had a plan, they were like, "Okay, we can get along with this." When I decided to buy my horse as a sophomore in college, I was like, "Hey, I'm buying a 6-month-old walking horse." And this is exactly look, I had a little
As
job,
a father of a 20-year-old, I'm thinking this is not the time to buy a horse.
you know, but I had a plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was really good, you know? And so having to sell an idea when you wanna get a horse, and, I had a little job in college. I was making $17 an hour. I just knew I was rich. I had so much money. If you're listening on the podcast, I'm doing air quotes.
Yep. Yep.
Um, but I had to sell the idea. If I wanted to do something, I had to sell the idea. And that is all that public speaking is.
Now, was that like your parents made you look, you got to put this together? Because I do that with my kids. If you want to
Mhm.
do this, I would like a spreadsheet, and a
Mhm.
presentation would be fine too.
Mhm. Well, back in the '90s, we weren't really doing presentations like that, but it was like, "So how is this gonna go? And then what? And what if? And then what happens when?" And I'm like, "You created the millennial overthinker that I am. Thank
Yeah.
you." I am considering all the scenarios because I know my Virgo mother is going to ask me about the scenarios. So, public speaking is has gotten so much easier for me, but it's when I have created like my own topic or my own, wait, this is my brainchild. That's when I'm
Mm.
like, okay, can people digest this? I know that I'm, been thinking about this for years, and I've been stewing on it, and, this and that is clear to me. But when I share it, how do I move people along that journey so that they follow me and they get to the point where I am without being overwhelmed? Because let me, ooh, this is so good. I will say that when I introduce myself to someone, I have to deal with a lot of apprehension just with introductions because like the start of this podcast, if I were to say all the things that I do, people's eyeballs glaze over.
It's easier for someone else to say it, right? But
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And I'm like working through the shadow saying, okay, well, wait a minute, hearing like, oh wow, you do the most. Like that was my kryptonite. Like hearing
Maybe I
that
should
and
pull back.
right. Or
Yeah.
not, no, not that. Not even maybe I should pull back. It's you think this is a lot?
Wow.
In my mind, it's so much bigger. And you're overwhelmed by this? I haven't even gotten to where I'm gonna go. This is like I'm trying,
Yeah.
but
You think that's a lot. This is
you
on
think
my
that's a
way,
lot?
not
Yeah. I've been studying wine for the last 4 years. I've gotten 2 certifications. I am
Wow.
on my way to a horse-inspired winery campus of sorts where people are coming to have amazing experiences. Like we on the way here. And if you're
That
overwhelmed
sounds
by the
amazing.
pieces, like you are going to be really overwhelmed by when I get to that final boss destination. So
We have so much in common. My TikTok handle, my personal one, is wine and horses because I make wine and I ride
stop.
horses. I do.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. Just right over there is my winery.
Bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully by the time this podcast goes live, it'll be licensed and we can sell. So we've got a lot in common. I love that you went for certifications. That's fantastic. If we had known this before, we would be drinking a glass while we did this podcast for sure.
Cannot wait for our follow-up conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. But I get it because I when I was putting together your bio, a conversation my wife was involved in not too long ago, and I was talking to someone and I literally said this out loud. I don't really know what I'm going to do with my free time right now. And my wife wasn't in the conversation, but you could hear her neck snap. And she went, "What free time are you talking about? You have to stop starting things because all of this going on." And so I was going over these things all these amazing things that you're doing. And I felt a kinship because I also feel the same way. Like I'm just kind of getting started. And I do feel like I do have free time. Like other people look at it like you're crazy, but
yeah. And I always, people say, oh, how do you manage it all? And I'm like, number one, probably some neurodivergence. I don't know. But also if I need to dissociate from one thing, I associate into another. I got things to do. You got people who need a break and they're trying to figure out what hobbies they can pick up. Stuff on my list of things to do. I just go start illustrating the book or, now I'm doing ceramics and pottery. And I thought that was going to give my mind a break. And that's not true. Pottery is not the relaxing activity that I thought it was. And
I think after our prep call, that's what you were leaving to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm just like, I pay for studio time. Like I'm a studio artist now. And it does help me not have to do a lot of the thinky thoughts, but I do have to think hard about what I'm doing on the pottery wheel. So so much free time. It's great.
Yeah. So now one of the very first thing I saw of yours, the content was about agritourism. And you were talking about sustainability and, I've spoken to a lot of people and I had a lot of ideas for what I wanted to talk about when I started this podcast. I had never really heard that term before, nor the concept you had talked about. So broaden my mind here. blow me away.
Yeah.
What is that, and how do you bring it into these horse businesses to make them more sustainable?
Right. So agritourism is the combination of agriculture, this working farm um location, and a tourism aspect. You are either educating or entertaining people on the farm who are not coming there to do any work. And so a lot of times horse farmers or horse business owners don't think of themselves as farmers. Horse farm owners anyway. They don't think of themselves as farmers because they're not producing something for consumption. If they're not breeding, then they're
Hmm.
not producing additional livestock. But I like to think, say they are a lesson barn or an equine assisted services facility. You're a farmer of experience. You are farming experiences. If you're doing lessons, you are selling experiences. That is the farmer that you are. And that is exactly what agritourism is. And so, one of the challenges that I see with horse farm owners, whether they're doing lesson programs, breeding, whatever, they have horses on the farm that cannot serve in the function that they originally got
Hmm.
there.
Retired.
They're retired. They need secondary career. My dogs are like
They
going
want to be
crazy.
on the podcast too.
They do, and I'm just like, wow, y'all been asleep all day. But they don't see themselves as farmers, and those horses need additional use, right? Once I joined it was a gift for my business birthday, which is in August. I did a farm tour, and it had some winery stops, so you got to go to the
Those are always
winery. It
good.
was a lunch. Right. It was so much fun. And I said, wait a minute. There is no horse farm representation here. How can horse farm owners get in on agritourism? They're not a you pick strawberry operation. They don't have an orchard. They don't have a vineyard. Well, unless you come to my place in a few years,
That's
right?
awesome.
But
I'll bottle what you make.
right. How can they get in on this? Right? Because the quality of life of farm owners is decreasing as everything else gets so expensive.
Yep. Margins are
Their
being squeezed.
margins are being squeezed. How can they capitalize on this opportunity? When economic times get hard, or just there's a lot of uncertainty, people want to escape. They're escaping to the farm. Why aren't horse farm owners able to capitalize off of that? And I'm not naive enough to think like, oh, insurance is not a big deal. I'm like, no, I understand that there's complications with that happening, do agritourism for horse farms. It is complex. But as long as dude ranches exist, I feel like you can figure it out, right?
Someone's probably solved that problem already.
Someone solved the problem. So you can choose your hard, right?
Yeah,
You can do this many lessons.
Be broke. Yeah.
And be broke. Or people want to just come out and take photos and have the horses in the background with the ambiance. If you could make money doing that, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You don't have to actually do anything. If the photographers are coming out and they're paying you so that their clients can come out and get the golden hour horse photography.
Yeah.
They're not in the pasture with the horses. They're outside of it. If your grounds look that good that you could do that, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
If you could add some cut flowers or something to beautify the farm to make that possible, why wouldn't you? If you considered yourself a farmer and actually understood the resources available from the government to support farmers, like field trials for grass growing and rotational grazing. If the government will pay you to grow grass and rotate your, I just feel like,
I
why
would
would
grow grass.
there's trials, there's field trials for fencing. You mean you want to fence my pasture to see which fence is stronger? My horse will tell you. Come
Yeah,
on,
yeah. I've got one of those.
right. And so
Yeah.
it's like the disconnect of horse farm owners not thinking of themselves as farmers prevents them from accessing the things meant for livestock, meant for agriculture.
I feel like this is tied into understanding your culture, and there are other ones. Because I can see some of these people who've got great horse farms. They would think, why would anyone want to just come out here and take photos? And
Mm-hmm.
what I don't get it. Well, yeah, because you live out here, and people in the
Yes.
city would pay to come out. When would they ever have the opportunity to take photos with horses
Right.
at your place?
Right. We're so close to it that we don't realize how novel it is for other
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, it definitely ties into the beginning of the conversation. If you have horses, yeah,
Right.
doesn't everybody?
Right. Right. And I mean, there's such a range. And that was, speaking of like what's possible in this industry, I did a little vibe coding and I made this agritourism idea generator where you can put in just a description of your farm and some of the amenities that you have and what your capacity is to try agritourism. And it will generate ideas for you on what you could
Wow.
possibly do. So if you say, I got a horse farm in Texas and I've got a building with bathrooms, and depending on your capacity, it'll say a whole bunch of things that you can do. If you have trails, you could do like trail walks and things like that. And I've heard people say like, well, I don't like even really dealing with people like that.
There's a
Okay.
lot of that. I train horses so I don't have to deal with people, but that's not true
Right.
because you have to
Right,
deal
because
with
the
people.
horses don't pay the bills.
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I just, it's not for everybody, but for who it is for, I want to make sure that they understand what's possible and are connected to resources for their state because there is, the lobbying, the zoning, the all
Mhm.
that. There is a lot of complexity, but there is a lot of opportunity and it's still very new.
Yeah, and if that, people who train horses and give instructions and lessons, lesson barns, all those places,
Mhm.
when they think about scaling, they usually think about how am I going to get another horse in?
Mhm.
How do I possibly give 10 more lessons this week? I don't have time.
Yeah.
And this is getting outside of that time for money
Mhm.
exchange and
Mhm.
giving them another opportunity. So then, the question seems to be like, if you could add 10% to your bottom line, increase that margin with an idea that doesn't mean you train another horse.
Mhm. Would you
Is
do
that
it?
interesting? It sounds like it is.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know you experience that with the work that you do, the affiliate marketing. Like, it's one extra step, but it can
Yeah.
open up so much possibility for you. And I'll tell you, my life changed when I realized that there were people out here that did not exchange time for money for their time.
Yep.
I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. I can charge based on the value of this thing?" Oh.
That's if I've ever coaching anyone, that is usually the first thing that I do and sometimes it's to my own detriment. My wife keeps telling me, you need to stop talking to our trainer because every time you do, she gets better at this business and you lose more money. So,
You know?
but that was probably my biggest one. I have so many evolutions in running my marketing agency, but probably the biggest was stop looking at what we charge based on our hours. If I do something for you that's worth $10,000 and it took me an hour to do, it's still worth $10,000. And I think so many people and especially if they didn't have entrepreneurism in their family,
Right.
you grow up exchanging an hour for an amount of dollars, and you don't
Mhm.
see that there's that even if it was an hour, it was still worth something. There was a value to that time. And that was a
Yeah.
huge shift. And we went from doing okay to growing a multi-million-dollar business
Yeah.
because we went to that value. And then when people say, why is it so expensive? Because that's what it's worth. How
Right.
many hours do you put into this? I put as many as need to deliver that value.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly right. Exactly right. And it takes time to understand that. And I don't necessarily think that the equine industry is like a lot of people aren't talking about that. I absolutely hate the whole, if you want to be a millionaire in horses, you got to start with $2 million.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
okay, you're a drag.
Yeah.
Like,
Thank
I
you. What
can't.
can I do with that?
Right. I can't do anything with that because what you're not telling me is that people will come to have a little charcuterie board in the barn aisle and I don't have to do anything. And it'd be $75 a pop. Like, yeah,
That
the that limited
I don't have to
mindset.
do anything. Charcuterie. This sounds like a win-win.
Yeah. I too am eating the charcuterie,
Yeah,
okay?
I will be there eating as well. One thing my wife and I've always talked about is we have a little winery here and we have
Uh-huh.
horse facilities, and we
Mhm.
wanted to build like a horse motel. A couple people, they can come in, there's some stalls, they can ride, and then they'll be able to enjoy the winery. It seems like that's kind of a little bit of something like that is what you're talking about. Using the facilities that you have.
Yes. Yes. This is so exciting.
So is that primarily the work you do through Black Unicorn Creative, is helping? Because you also you talk a lot about storytelling, and
Mhm.
that in marketing is a really big deal. You have to know your story. So is that primarily the work that you do, or is agritourism a focus that you have within that work?
It is just a focus, and a lot of people ask me, hold on one second. Okay. A lot of people ask me, "Do you only work in the horse industry?" And I'm like, "No, I do have my special interests, but the work that I do, the consulting, the what I call now the alignment consulting is for any business truly." I think that alignment is our biggest competitive advantage, right? But in order to kind of align your brand with the actual business that you're running, you have to close the gap between who you say you are and what you're actually delivering to people. In order to do that, I think that you have to make your value visible by making your values visible. So I work with values-based businesses who can say, "No, this is important to me, and I'm willing to stick with this value in consequence of this thing." If your values don't cost you anything, then they're not a value. It's just
Yeah.
this preference that you have. So I work with businesses to align their foundation and saying, "Okay, wait a minute. This is the meat of who we are. How do we grow from that? How do we navigate change from that? How do we transform our impact from that?" Going through things like the marketing, like the website, all of that. Yes, understanding the story, but also if you're going to say that you value transparency, but in your operations, your actual tech stack, you're not sending, say, your product based business, you're not sending shipping updates, you're not sending
Not
these
being
additional
transparent.
emails. Yeah, you're not actually being transparent.
Yeah.
There's a misalignment there. And so not only do I help with I don't do the marketing. I help with the surfacing of the story. But I'm helping build out the systems in the back end of the business to say, "Okay, this is how we execute on these values. If the values we have don't have a behavior or an experience attached to it, they're not a value. If there's not something that we're doing, if there's not a way that we are leading to actually be the fruition of this
That
value,
walk of the values.
yeah, then what
Hmm.
is it for? How do we even make decisions on what we do next? How do we even navigate change of the market or the supply chain or any of that if we don't know what is true for us?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the kind of work that I do that through, consulting, actually being in the business, being a retainer. I work with small businesses. I like to say that I work with small businesses that have failed a little bit
Mm.
because you don't know what's important to you until it started to cost you something,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
That is true. Yep. Until
I
you're in a fetal position and your wife is saying, "Will you just go get a job?" You haven't
yes,
figured out what those values are.
you haven't figured it out. And so I love people. I love working with people who are in the thick of it. And they're like, you know what? I tried this and it sucked. So I can't do it like that anymore. Help me figure out what the possibilities are. And that is where I shine. And so understanding the story behind it, understanding like with Black in the Saddle, I started out of frustration. And then I realized that frustration was not enough to get me to the impact that I wanted to have. It was not enough of a motivator. And so I had to change things up, right? Understanding that stories are what got us, to where we are today. It is how we pass down information. Before anything was written, there were stories. And so what are those stories? What's the story that your employees are telling about the work that y'all do? What is the story that your
Yeah.
investors are saying? Oh, well, this is why we invested in them. If it's
Yeah.
not the story that you want them to tell, you have to craft it. It's going to show up regardless. You might as well design it on purpose.
Yeah. I remember the first like two value statements we did.
Mhm.
They were awful
Yeah.
because we weren't living them out. They were kind of, we would like to have those values, but in the end we didn't. And
Mhm.
until it took years until
Mhm.
we got to a point where, and then once we were living out the values that we really had, it was easy to make all those decisions based. And that was the one thing, like they don't tell you, it's hard to get a hold of until you failed.
Mhm.
And then you realize, look, we've not been making decisions based on our values. These values will be guiding us in all these hard things, hard decisions we have to make.
Yeah.
So, like, what is your ideal client? They're listening. Tell me who that's a business that's kind of failing or has
Mhm.
hit some struggle.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to say that yeah, it is a business that has started a business, a founder who has started something and they really believe in it. They are navigating some sort of change, whether it's a change of leadership, a change of market, a change of product. And they're trying to figure out, wait a minute, like there is a disconnect and I cannot put my finger on it. I work with corporations who are trying to get their own business units to get out of their silos and say, "Wait a minute, the disconnect is us, right? It is the business units not working together for this common goal, for this directive passed down by our leadership." That's where my leadership development practice comes in. I'm like, how are we aligning with what the goals of the organization are? I say business, I work with nonprofits who are doing the same thing. Um, they're often mission driven, right? Okay, if you've gotten clarity on your mission, how are you getting there? What you should be working yourself out of a organization, right? That's
Oh,
the
yeah, yeah,
goal. You want
yeah,
people to no longer need you.
yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
are you
You
making
fix
that
the problem if they
you
no longer
fix the
need you.
problem,
Yeah.
right?
That reminds
So
me of the anti-inspirational poster that I had. My dad had. It said, "Look, if you can't fix the problem, there's a ton of money to be made in prolonging it."
yeah, right, right, exactly, exactly. So yeah, those are my ideal clients, right? People really navigating some sort of change, and I do equine assisted leadership development, And so I know that, when you're out there with the horses and you were trying to um, figure out how to connect, figure out how to make leadership sustainable so you're not dragging people along.
Yeah.
Figure out how to manage your energy because you're dealing with burnout yourself, to figure out how to align your team so that their priorities make sense with larger priorities, right? The horses are so uniquely capable of doing that and teaching us that. And it's an experience that rivals any classroom delivery. I've been delivering at the
Yeah.
small business center, and I'm just like, oh, if we could just go out with the horse.
Yeah. There's something that changes when people are around horses.
Yeah.
It's hard to describe, but
It's an embodied experience. You cannot think your way
yeah.
through these problems. You have to actually change. You have to actually feel your way through this problem. You have to rely on your instincts and question them and challenge them and encourage them and adjust them, right? Instead of I can always tell when I am a good fit for a therapist if they don't allow me to intellectualize my way through my problems. They're like,
Yeah.
you've explained a lot to me and
Yep,
you have felt nothing. I'm like, you got me, right?
Okay.
But
I'm in the right place.
I'm in the right place, right? But that's the work with the horses too. People like to talk their way through their challenges, but they haven't actually had an intrinsic change about it.
Yeah.
So that's the work that I get to do.
That's
and
awesome.
Nobody told me that was possible, but that connecting the humans, the animals, the environment, that is an expression of that.
That's awesome. Abriana, thank you so much. We're a little over time. If you can forgive me. I got to 3 questions on 6 pages, double-sided. I literally I got all these pages. I would love to have you back for a second if you're up for it.
Because
we haven't talked about wine at all.
And I am speechless that the world has brought us together.
Yeah, it's crazy. Damn that LinkedIn algorithm.
Right? And I just started, not just started, but maybe the last 12 months actually thinking about LinkedIn and updating it and yada, yada. And I'm just like, what? The ROI.
Yeah. Well, your content is great. I really have enjoyed it. And the relationships are a huge bonus. So thank you so much. I'll set up another time for us to chat. And so how can people follow you? What's the best? Obviously, I'll include LinkedIn if you like. What's other ways that they can reach out and connect with you?
Yeah, you can find me on social media on Instagram at Black in the Saddle, BLK in the Saddle. The Kinship Conference has its own Instagram. It's
when is that?
It's November 6th and 7th in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Okay.
Tickets are on sale now. That account is at Kinship Con. Cowgirl Cameron is at Cowgirl Cameron, CAMRYN. All of the websites are the same as the handles. And then blackunicorncreative.com. Hit me on there, LinkedIn, all the things.
Awesome. Abriana, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed this conversation. And if I didn't have to leave, I would just keep recording, but I actually do have somewhere else to go today. Yeah. Thank you so much. You're truly a unique individual, really fun to chat with and very educational. So I know people are going to really enjoy this podcast, and I will include all of those links in the show notes so people can follow you and reach out and connect.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I can't wait for our next conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for listening to this episode of Equine Business Edge. If you got value from today's conversation, make sure you subscribe, follow, and share this episode with another horse professional who could benefit from it. Word of mouth is how great businesses and great podcasts grow, and your support truly helps us reach more people in the horse industry. And this podcast is proudly produced and sponsored by equinerevshare.com. Equinerevshare.com was built specifically for horse professionals. Trainers, instructors, clinicians, boarding facilities, influencers, breeders, and all sorts of equine business owners who are already recommending products to clients every single day. Whether it's tack, supplements, grooming products, apparel, feed, training tools, or barn equipment, your clients are already asking what you use and trust. And we provide a way for you to make that happen, earn a commission, and all doing it the same way you do it right now. Equine RevShare helps you turn those recommendations into an additional income stream by giving you access to retail partnerships and easy-to-share product links from equine brands and retailers all over the world, all in one place. No complicated tech, no inventory, no awkward selling, just your cell phone. Just a simple way to get rewarded for the influence and trust you've already built in the horse industry. To learn more or get started, visit equinerevshare.com. And thanks again for being here. We'll see you in the next episode of Equine Business Edge.